Well, since February 24, Russia has maintained a relentless bombardment of Ukraine. Thousands are dead, and there's no sign that the violence will end. An estimated 2 million residents have been forcibly removed and taken to Russia, according to reports. Several hundred women and children are among them. They're held in filtration camps with little or no access to communication. Joining me live now is the Ukrainian Ambassador to Australia, Vasyl Myroshnychenko. Vasyl, thanks so much for your time. Since February, we have had Ukraine front of mind, and as the world moves on, we can't forget about what's happening in Ukraine, because it seems to me that the warfare has changed somewhat. We're now in this protracted period. These reports of women and children being taken to Russia, is this out of desperation, or do you think there's something else going on here?
Look, Russia has a tradition of forcefully moving people around that goes back to the times of communism and Stalin, who have forcefully moved people around for political reasons. And this is what we also seeing. By the way, this is one of the war crimes, forceful movement of people. And now we are estimating that about 500,000 of Ukrainians have been forcefully taken into Russia. And that's a lot of them. A lot of those people end up in slavery, and that's a problem. I know that International Labour Organization is coming up with a report on this issue, and it will be publicized soon. But this is one of the war crimes. So apart from the murders, executions, rapes, which Russian troops are perpetrating in Ukraine, they also are forcefully moving people.
Indeed. Ambassador, how do you see this long, protracted war that it's killed thousands of your fellow citizens? How do you see it ending?
Ukraine has to prevail. We depend on our allies. We depend on the support coming from our friends. And I'm happy to say that Australia is a big friend of Ukraine. We could see that with a trip of Prime Minister Albanese going to Kyiv, meeting President Zelensky. It was a very cordial, very warm visit. And the military assistance which is coming from Australia is highly appreciated in Ukraine. And Ukrainian people are extremely thankful to the Australian people for that support. We need more of that support coming because we need weapons, we need armored personnel carriers, we need missiles. Because that's the only way how we can defend ourselves and how we can repel the Russians from Ukraine, how we can restore sovereignty, and how we can stop all this harrowing experience that our Ukrainian people have to go through.
Are you still willing to engage in peace talks, or has that stalled?
Well, the peace talks have stalled, and that was not our decision. That was a decision of Russia to stop any engagement on the peace talks.
Why not? All wars end, really, it would seem, with some kind of peace talk. Is it just that you don't want to cede ground?
Look, every war ends with a peace deal. But for us to negotiate with Russia, we need to restore Ukraine's sovereignty and take control of our borders. And Ukraine and Russia has occupied a big part of Ukraine. And until we can regain the territory, we can kick the Russians out, this is when we can actually get a deal with Russia. But the problem with any document you can sign with Russia is actually who is going to guarantee that it will not be violated. Russia has violated all possible multilateral agreements and bilateral conventions that we've ever signed. So we need to have some sort of security guarantees, because we can't change geography. Russia will be always there next door. But how can we prevent them from actually mounting another attack? You see, Putin is not going to relent. He wanted to take over Kyiv. He failed. And now he's changed the strategy. He's taken down territory in the east, in the south, still have fighting going on throughout all the front lines. So any pause or a ceasefire will enable Russia to resupply and to mount another attack. So we as Ukrainians, we need to be mobile, we need to be nimble, and we need to move fast, and we need to fight.
Ambassador, perhaps it's not something that you would want to flag here, and I fully appreciate that, but can you ever envisage a scenario where Ukraine might give up some territory in order to secure peace?
I'm very sorry, but I lost you.
Sorry, I'll repeat my question. Perhaps it's something you don't want to flag here, but could you ever envisage a scenario where Ukraine would give up some territory in order to secure peace?
I don't think it's feasible at the moment because you see, the problem is Russia does not want Ukrainian territory. I think we have to understand it. It's not about the territory. Russia wants to take over Ukraine. They want us to cease to exist. So any territory it's not about the territory at the end of the day. It's actually about them taking over Kyiv and actually destroying our sovereignty. And any gains that they get, they will not stop. They've been waging this war for 8 years. They've grabbed Crimea. They grabbed eastern part of Ukraine. Now they mounted a bigger attack and invaded more territory. It's not that they're going to stop. So I don't think it's about us giving up territory. Nobody has the right to demand that. We in Ukraine are not giving up our territory. And this is clear. This was announced by the president of Ukraine. And we are not, because this is not about the territory. This is about the Ukrainian people, about human lives who will be suffering there, who are now suffering because of the Russian invasion. And they will suffer even more under the Russian occupation. We see it in Crimea. We've seen it in eastern Ukraine. It's happening everywhere now. So we have to protect the Ukrainian lives because every life matters.
Whatever the solution, we cannot let this fade from the headlines. So, Ambassador, as always, we appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot for having me.